the 2nd of June 2020. The Children's Day is over. Um, my communications free flow of thoughts concerning the situation as it is, a sort of spiritual update. So we have entered a new month. I have made my first how to put it, not really performance, interview in front of the camera today. I went to the office for the unemployed and it was closed. And the people had not been informed that it was to be closed, and there was divida, intervention. Incidentally, I was trying to find help when my problems began, and one of the centers I addressed was intervention. I left a message, but no one called me back. So things do return, and today they interviewed me. It was terrible in the sense of my looks. I positively hated. I am a beautiful woman, so I should be just perfect in front of the TV camera. And I guess it's not doable now. Not to mention that I do not know how I should stand, where I should look, etc. But I think the most important factor is the truthfulness of the message, what you actually say. So I am quite happy that I was able to say what I think. To say it, I mean, I don't know if any use will be made of this, but I'm quite happy that I made the point about the situation of the people who are unemployed. The unemployed person is in a difficult situation, not only financially but also socially. And it is also important to remember that such a person remains under the control of the office for the unemployed, and that such a person in a state that is the state of law enters certain agreements by which the person has some duties and the office has some duties. So it is important to be able to think in such terms. And I'm glad I made points as my first interview in front of the TV camera. I had some recording at the university. I attended classes on rhetorics, and they were at the Polish department, the Jagiellonian University, and they were devoted to nonverbal communication. When we were discussing the subject of lies, we were recorded. So that was the first time. It was very stressful for me. Today it was not stressful. It was just the feel that I should be so beautiful and perfect, and with what they have done to me, I don't even want to think what was there on the screen. I mean, it's not only the factor of fatness, but it's also the factor of the changes to my face, and I don't know what mimics there were. But on the whole, I have a good feel about about being able to say what I wanted to say in the first place, because I think that this is really the most important thing, that you don't sit there afterwards and think, well, I should have said it differently, or I wanted to say so many other things and I did not say them. So I'm quite happy that it was not being blocked. But then there's the reality one wakes up to after a short focus on something else. And the reality is devastating, really. My attitudes have changed. In the recent weeks, I think, it's already weeks, I have devoted all my attention to trying to arrive at some order in the sphere of my love life, which is quite weird because it's about things that have never been anywhere near the surface of my awareness. So you just live your life and you are not aware of all the people who are in it, actually. And then there's a sense of someone departing, or you having a disagreement or even a war with someone. Suddenly, perhaps you had it earlier, but suddenly that reaches your awareness. So you had no idea what had been happening, but suddenly you see, oh, there's something going wrong here. And oh my God, these are the people, and I'm losing these people. And who are these people? What they are doing actually, and how I can put it all in my personal universe. So this is what I've been busying myself with recently, and I was quite shocked to find out how much love I had that I had not been aware of at all. But it was living alone, but not alone actually. So it was very difficult with the new situation in life I have found myself in, where the whole world actually is at war with me, due to what they have done to my body, due to what they have done with my reputation, due to what they have done with my life. Needless to say, I'm winning that war on the spiritual plane. If we can talk about any plane, so perhaps in the spiritual dimension or simply in the spiritual world. So that keeps me calm as far as the eventual outcome is concerned. However, it does not give me the confidence in my own getting free and getting back my family. So there's the huge question mark. I don't have this certainty. I have certainty that there will be justice. So the people will be punished. But it's very difficult to imagine how I can be free and get whatsoever that is really life again. I basically, when I view the future, I see the continued suffering, and then I have a sense of some span of time of as if I did not exist at all. But of course I will exist, because a spiritual being always exists. I've been thinking a lot. I've been thinking of the possible presences, spiritual presences in rocks, for instance. When I go to the Twardowski rocks that is nearby, I live in Twardowskiego Street, and so I have a sense that there's life, and you know that we've always thought of it in terms of something material, and I always had this question mark somewhere at the back of my mind when I was studying Scientology, where you have dynamics of existence, and normally most of them are quite obvious. So you have the first dynamic, which is the self, the person's belongings, and then you have the second dynamic, which is a family dynamic, it is connected with sex. Obviously, in normal life situations, that is supposed to be healthy and the procreation and no aberration. So also homosexuality has nothing to do with that dynamic actually, because it is about having children, that is giving birth and surviving as the species. And creative in the when you study ethics, Scientology ethics, creativity comes into that department, but I'm not sure if it should not be moved to the sixth department, that is to the sixth dynamic. But we'll arrive there. Anyway, the second dynamic is about surviving as a family, so actually having offspring, and of course that's a quite frequent misunderstanding on the part of Scientologists. It also includes our parents, because obviously we are the children, so we are a family. So this is the second dynamic. So we are our parents' survival dynamic. And then there's the third dynamic, which is a group dynamic. So whatever groups we join and feel a part of. And then there's the fourth dynamic, and this can be all sorts of groups. The fourth dynamic is the humanity, which should perhaps be redefined or reviewed, or simply conceived in a different way analytically, due to the changes taking place now. And I believe that we do have presences of other civilizations from the outer space on Earth now. So what are you still fighting? I mean, are you still surviving as a human being? What does it mean, the survival of the species? Are you in humankind? Or are you in treason? All sorts of questions that have to do with that, the survival of the species, of humankind as a species. And then there's we normally don't think about it. We think about, not before, we did not think about it generally, I believe. When we had the fourth dynamic, it was, I taking care of humankind because I'm fighting for world peace, or perhaps I'm fighting for human rights, or perhaps I'm an ingenious, I'm really great at chemistry, and I'm an ingenious doctor, so I have developed this new cure for some disease. So or perhaps I can create beautiful things, and I make all humankind beautiful thanks to that, or whatever. This is the fourth dynamic thinking, we human beings. But then right now we are in this new situation. So what is happening to the species? And this is connected in Scientology thinking with the genetic entity. So normally we talk about three parts of man. When you start Scientology, you learn that there are three parts of man: the spirit, called Thetan, the mind, and then you learn about the reactive and analytical mind, and then the body, and it is only later, I believe, that you actually get the concept of the genetic entity. And I don't. There are so many phenomena right now that it's hard to say what is what. Really, I believe that it might be connected with my establishment of the Noble Queendom of Agnipolitania, currently called the Noble Queendom of Onestia, or not. But we do have the presences of the beings from the ancient times, and I think that it might be for ages they have been suppressed. They have come out, so to say. So all sorts of weird beings breaking through whatever walls kept them out of the awareness. and perhaps it's good because it's life, but on the other hand it's very difficult because well what to do with such phenomena uh, resulting from the presences fighting for their life. Mm, but we have this very strong situation of the redefinition of a human being that has to do with transhumanism. And perhaps not only that, perhaps we are actually in the process of some intelligence apart from from what we know as artificial intelligence, so the whole digital world, which is obvious, but there are also other civilizations in the vast cosmic space. Well, the one that we normally label as the machine that has to do with communism has certainly been present since the beginning of the 20th century. Mostly Russia, but also other places. Russia is probably the beginning, or perhaps not, or maybe not at all. Maybe England, for instance, only Russia has. Well, perhaps Russia was the experiment or whatever. Our perception, we should really review all the ways we have thought about things, because right now when it has become so chaotic, we can easily see that the former thinking really perverts the truth. But what we are truly dealing with now is the possibility of the end of the species, the human species, and the beginning of a new civilization, which is, like the human being becoming a kind of a dinosaur, which can be woken up from the oblivion one day, perhaps, but not necessarily. So this is a different situation as far as the survival of the species, the humankind, goes, from what it has been normally thought of, from as it was normally thought of. Some confusion in grammar. From what we normally thought it to be. Now the fifth dynamic is, well, let me not get confused. What's going on? The eighth dynamic is God, the spiritual world. Aha, all forms of life, of course. So the fifth. No, let me check. Just in case, it should be life, but perhaps it's something else. So by the book, it's yes, it's life. But what life? Fauna and flora, generally. As it says, this would include all living things, whether animal or vegetable, anything directly and intimately motivated by life. So it is the individual's effort to survive, to make life survive. And that's a different identity. Simply one operates in that. It does not mean that we are to take over the spirits of the animals or plants. It means that we have a different sense of identity, of the spiritual identity which connects us to life. And this is, if, well, I believe that this would also be, or perhaps higher, but all those weird life forms would be here. Of course, as long as they are not counter-survival, that is acting against our survival or generally survival. But you know, well, this is a weird form, but this is still life. And then the sixth dynamic is the physical world, and this is really what what has come up in my awareness. So you know, when you touch the walls of a castle, for example, or I don't know, is there any life in the bell where they put the heart of the king and made it eternal, or at least not easily damageable and persisting? And what does it do to the king actually? Well, there are so many questions that have appeared. And you know, when you think of the court, you always have to think of all those weird presences there, which are pretty vicious. So we have it at the Wawel Royal Castle. So you know, as long as the Sigismund bell tolls, this crackle, this Poland. Right. So the physical world, where suddenly it was completely, like, you know, okay, so this is matter, and suddenly it turns up, there appears the question: is it only matter, or if we get to this very subtle or very high sensibility, can we actually get some remnants of light? And of course we need to be very careful not to get delusional, because there are all sorts of tricks played. But if you put your hand on the rock, is it possible that there's really life there? You know, the ancient rock, and there are certain mountain chains that have names of people. So well, there are lots of questions, and then you can think of planets in the cosmic space. So all these have become a part of reality that we really need to rethink. And then there's the seventh dynamic, which is the spiritual dynamic. So life is the spirit, and I would put creativity here, to be honest, because creativity comes from the spirit. So this is okay, it gets the form, but it comes from the spirit. And it can be a thought, so a new philosophy is actually creativity. This can be, it can be music, it can be poetry, it can be a painting, it can be a work of architecture, all those things that we create as spirits. But I'm not making any I don't know, debate here right now, just sharing my thoughts and my experiences, my cognitive experiences that have come up. And then there's the eighth night dynamic, that is God or the Supreme Being. So where it all starts, I believe, and where it all belongs, if we believe that we are a spirit, of course. In Scientology, this is an axiom. So if someone wants to say that Scientology is a what do you call it, techno-religion or something like that, then obviously they are incorrect, because it is not what Scientologists do that define Scientology, but these are the holy books, and as far as the dynamics are concerned, you learn it quite early. So, this new reality of life, getting out of the simple delineations, like, okay, so this is the human being and this is the individual person. The person is a spirit, and the spirit has the mind and the body, and then there's a different idea in Scientology probably, and a different idea in Buddhism if we start to think about the mind, not to mention all psychology, etc. But generally psychology and psychiatry tend to go in the direction of the physical and materialistic, which is also a perversion, because at the start it's psyche. So this is a spiritual quality. All those things on my mind. I have started 2 courses in future learning. I thought I would never come back there, because they got involved in a crime against me and my mother when I was doing my Jane Austen course. But the crime is continuing everywhere anyway. And so I thought that I should drop in again and see what we will make out of the Tudor dynasty and Shakespeare. The two together should be a good anchoring, so to say. Cognitive anchoring, of course, no physical intentions. And this is, of course, the spiritual value I'm dealing with right now. So this is the monarchic and the imperial, and that's what my kingdom has been to become from the very start. I have borrowed 10 books on the subject. I have some at home, and I've spent so much time listening to music recently. Sadly, the war has been forwarded even further into devastation, to destruction, into all sorts of hatred that cannot but be. They have, I think they have fixed the man I hate to me in quite an unmovable way. So this is hatred forever. But I will trying to live regardless. And because they have done this, I have decided to resume my attitudes from the time when I was a university student. So we are again where I was then. It's probably the time before leaving La Vida Loca. And not to mention Maria. And I am this intelligent, creative, beautiful woman, who has some inferiority complex, especially in the area of her use of Polish, because my parents were not too well educated. The reason was the consequences of the war. But they were bright, which is why I have the brain. And of course my progress shows the lost potential of my parents. Still, my mom had a different direction because my mom wanted to be a medical doctor. She wanted to study medicine, but they had no money, so she had to go to work. She had never had anything to do with prostitution. She was a decent woman, and she worked all her life, from the completion of the secondary school when she was 18 till she reached the age when she could retire. She retired earlier because she went to Canada to take care of her mom. My grandma was suffering terribly. I believe I will suffer more than my grandmother even. So horror in front of me. But miracles happen. So maybe a miracle will happen. So this is me, the new child, that has all I need to have. So I am this wonderful woman set for success. It does not work this way, sadly, but we are back to the attitudes. So to start with, there are no slums in my life. There was Sambata Stivrin, a gypsy girl, very, very poor. I really liked in the primary school. I liked her because she was the only person with whom I could do what I loved doing. That is, we would go and borrow a dog for a walk. We would take Bibi, she was a paddle, for a walk. And before we started doing that, Beata started doing it earlier. And she would, I don't think she would let her go free, because she was not supposed to be let go free. But when we started taking her for the walk together, I would let her run freely without the line, and we would go to the fields, and there were still fields because there was space. There were no blocks everywhere, the modern world. So there was a lot of nature, there were vast fields, there were meadows, and Bibi was just running. And I think this is because she was the gypsy girl that I could do it with her. So that was really wonderful. But she betrayed me. Generally, gypsies, I don't know what problem gypsies have, but gypsies have a problem with me. And this is actually a gypsy woman put a spell on me, a curse that I would lose my child when pregnant. So, and I was a little child then. So, this is really unthinkable, animosity and viciousness, and what is it all about? I don't know, I don't understand. And perhaps that's why the things develop as they do. But I mean, then we parted. I was living my life. I went to an elite secondary school specializing in teaching foreign languages. I learned English. I did not quite learn German and Russian, but I had to do my homework and to pass the tests. So I did have the proper introduction. So people from slums and the world of poverty is totally not my world. To start with, I have no considerations about it. I did not start teaching in the primary school in Azori yet, so I have no idea what problems the children really have. And I'm just studying my English philology. And basically, I can relate to the people I studied with. So, for instance, I know that Agnieszka Romanowska is pretty conventional, and she will never arrive at any breakthrough or whatsoever. In other words, I am superior. But you can always count on Agnieszka Romanowska because she's all correct. I have Professor Bella, who is more or less like Agnieszka Romanowska. But Agnieszka Romanowska is more eloquent. Well, perhaps not eloquent, but she is more, how to put it, well, she is the child of a professor too. So she's like Marysia Borowska. She has certain things that I had not had because my parents were both professors. And you grow up with it. So this is natural for you. Well, so other things are natural for me. So, you know, the big heart, the love, the care, the tenderness, the duty. Well, the order actually too, but I have a different personality, so I won't order when I organize something. But I leave my clothes hanging on the chair, or perhaps not the chair, but on the washing machine, and on the bicycle that I never ride because I hate riding bicycles. But my stepfather bought one for me and my brother, so I have this bicycle and it just stands there, so it's perfect for hanging clothes. Well, different things that come with my mother, but I don't have what they have because they are the children of professors. Still, I can compare what happens when we go to classes. So I have the stable sense of superiority. And I can also view my professors. And I know where Professor Bella is, and I know where Professor Gibinska is, and I know where Professor Tabakowska is. And now I'm wiser. So, you know, then Professor Tabakowska was a guru. I would like look at her and, you know, a miracle. But now I can see that perhaps she is not correct, and perhaps her great mind is no longer able to evaluate and assess the information because she has the cognitive setup. So it's quite possible that she's not able to see beyond the school she belongs to. As for Professor Gibinska, she is certainly ingenious, so I would certainly put her in the elite. If we talk about Shakespeare, if I were to find the representation for Poland to show the arrogant Englishman that he is not at the top of the world, I would send Professor Gibinska to have a proper debate on Shakespeare with the best specialist on Shakespeare from England. But on the other hand, she is also a supervisor. And well, why am I not a university professor today? So that ends the bows, deep bows to Professor Gibinska as well. And you know, with all those thoughts, I am back to my world. The 2nd of June 2020, Agnieszka Beata Magdalena Rold.